And I'm speaking personally because I was very uneducated about Israel and Palestine as somebody who mostly paid attention to domestic politics, as someone who isn't either Palestinian or Jewish. I kind of just had what the media had, like a default favorable view of Israel, which, by the way, good job, Israel, because now I think you guys are monsters and you've turned me into an anti-Zionist when before I had no opinion.
What changed it for you? When and how did this happen?
October 7th.
Really?
Yeah, that's when I started to, but I've been like furiously like I feel like, guys, that I went to college for it, like since this happened. Not that I'm not saying that like, oh, I'm an expert, but I'm saying the amount of reading that I've done, the amount of books, the amount of podcasts, documentaries, just like looking, it just could like probably for weeks I did nothing but read. Just like mind blown.
That makes me so happy. That makes me so happy.
But like I had, so like as an outsider, not understanding it, I thought I wasn't reading it right. Like as you were just talking about the blockade, when I was first reading about the blockade, how they reacted to Hamas's election and putting the blockade on them, I was like, that's not right. Wait, that's not right. But they said that they disengaged. Wait a sec. Like my mind was being blown over and over and over again. I was like, wait.
So was there something you saw that Israel did that was like a wake-up call for you? Because it wasn't, I assume it wasn't October 7th per se, but rather like the response to October 7th?
Yes. Yeah. No, when October 7th first happened, like straight up, I was like at first believing what Israel was saying. I was like, oh my gosh. And like too, I really had, as I was going through this process, like having to like deconstruct some of the propaganda I had just been taught about Arabs generally. Growing up post 9/11. And like basically what I had believed about Israel was Israel good. All the Arabs in Palestine hate them and want to kill them because they're Jewish. And because of the fact that like I always believed and I understand that like Jews have been historically persecuted. It really, I feel like kind of blinded me to be able to understand what was happening in Israel because I feared that if I questioned things that would make me anti-Semitic. And I didn't want to be like, I know that Jews are a global minority. I know that Jews have suffered, have been through the Holocaust, have been through pogroms. So I was like, oh, I don't want to like say anything because if I do, like, that's me being like anti-Jewish. Like, I don't want to be anti-Semitic.
Right.
And so then I started like questioning after Shireen Abu Akleh was killed. I was like, wait a second, this doesn't make any sense. She was an American. She was a journalist. Like, why? And I started like reading about it, but I was very confused. I didn't understand the occupation. I didn't understand like the way that the press worked. And so I was like bothered by it, but I kind of moved on. But it was there in the back of my head. That story was in the back of my head. And then when October 7th happened, at first I was like, oh my gosh, like, did this happen because they were Jews? Like, this is horrible. Like, why would you, like, this is, and then, like, I started actually, like, after probably about a week or two after it happened, I was reading a lot about it, and I started reading, like, Katie, your feed. Like, I was looking at your feed, and I was, like, looking at other people that were, like, questioning it and talking about how, like, that, you know, you shouldn't be attacking, like, Palestinian people, Arab people, like, all this stuff, and I was like, wait a second. So I first started looking at other Jewish people to see what they were saying about it. And then I found Norman Finkelstein and I started listening to him. And then I found the book, The 100 War on Palestine.
Yeah.
And I read the book.
We had on,
Yeah. And then I read the book and it was just like going down a rabbit hole of like understanding. And I never, to be clear, I never thought that like all Palestinians were like Jew haters or whatever.
Right.
I thought that like Hamas just in general were created because they hated Jews. And that's the reason why there were rocket attacks on Israel or like, and that's not to say there aren't, you know, like I never thought like, oh, it's all Palestinians or whatever. But I think that growing up in a post 9/11 world where you're constantly told like Arab people are scary, like over and over and over again, they all want to kill you. They hate us because they hate us. They hate us because of our freedom.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you hear they're attacking Israel. They're attacking Israel. They're attacking Israel. It's like I started to have to basically unpack my own unconscious biases and be like, why did I think this?
Right.
And I think it was a combination of that post 9/11 unconscious bias coupled with my genuine care for Jewish people and being afraid that I was sending harm their way.
Right.
By questioning the Netanyahu government, the state of Israel, the premise of the Zionist project. And basically, like, since then, I took, like, I don't know, 2 months and just read, listen to Palestinian people talk, listen to anti-Zionist Jews talk. And it kind of radicalized me. And so as a result, I guess now I am an anti-Semite. And Michael Rapaport hates me and thinks I'm a hoe.
Both things are being called that and being hated by Rapaport are both good signs. I mean, I saw a t-shirt the other day. Someone Jewish was wearing it. It's like, if you haven't been called anti-Semitic yet, you're not fighting hard enough for Palestine.
Yeah.
Which is obviously not saying it's anti-Semitic to do so. It's saying that you're going to be smeared by it. But
right. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
But I feel like the thing that was super mind-blowing to me too was just the amount of horror that the Palestinians have had to endure.
Yeah.
And the lying. And that's not to say like our government didn't do that. We didn't do things like that in Afghanistan. We didn't do these atrocities.
Yeah.
But I really feel like the IDF, like what I've seen,
it's next level. It is. I mean,
I'm not
downplay. I don't want to downplay what we did, and we did attack a lot of civilian infrastructure. But there was much more effort to not kill civilians.
But there was
not sufficient, but much more than we see.
Right. Not only that, but there was also at least more of an effort to cover it up, like to pretend that we were caring about people. Like I was blown away when I saw the IDF social media. I'm like, how is this real?
Yeah.
How is this real?
Yeah.
Like not even fronting. Also, another thing that really struck me through learning this whole thing was that I've never been gaslit so much.
Yeah.
And I've never been told that I can't criticize something before. Like I can shit on my own government. I can say our own military is trash and that we murdered people in Afghanistan and nobody blinks an eye. But you criticize the Israeli government and all of a sudden you're getting fired from your fucking people were like, we're going to get him fired. We're going to get him fired about me. And I was like, joke's on you, bitch. I already don't have a job. But if I did have a job, they were trying to get me fired.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Like every time I see someone like you, Blakeley, because when I started seeing your videos, I was very happy and because they're very funny. But I also didn't know whether or not you're Jewish. And to me, that's not something that I care about because it's at this point there's been enough gatekeeping, I think, around talking about it, but around people who aren't Jewish, who aren't Palestinian, like this idea of like you have no right to care about any of this
or speak about it.
Yes, first you must do 50 tweets about the Uyghurs before you can do one tweet about Israel. But I also I respect it as well because it's a different level of exposure. It's a different level of risk. I think when you're a Palestinian person or when you're an Arab person, the risk is the highest. But I also have noticed a lot more like white American people, white Christians, or just like non-Jewish white people saying stuff about it. And to me, that takes more bravery than it does for, me or Katie. I mean, I'll speak for myself. Katie, you're brave as well.
Self-loathing Jews.
We're called self-loathing Jews. We're called as Jews. We're called not Jewish enough. We're all of that stuff. But
capo, I get capo. Do you get capo?
All the time. Yeah. That's it's the same things over and over. But it doesn't stick as much, and so I have been like really heartened by the amount of people who since October 7th and seeing what's going on have educated themselves and done exactly what you've said. Like I feel like at this point, the writer of 100 Years War on Palestine,
Rashid Khalidi,
man, he's got a. I mean, just from a purely like point of like, he's got to be really happy about his book sales because I think everyone I know has started to read that book, and it's really great as and learning about Norman and learning about all these like people have been talking about it, people reading Orientalism, Edward Said for the first time, and I just like it makes me feel good because also now this niche political thing that I've been screaming about into the void It feels like more understandable. Like people like get it now, and I'm like, it makes me feel. Like
I realize
I'm
that
not
a lot
crazy.
of times they'll say like, "Oh, you can't talk about this if you're not from there," because they want to keep it in that propaganda bubble without a lot of people knowing about it.
Yeah,
but I did struggle with it. I mean, because I was like, "Oh, what can I make videos about? I want to talk about this because it's really important." And you know, when you learn something new and you get really excited, you want to share about it.
yeah,
I was like so blown away by how much I didn't know about it that I felt compelled to share because my audience who I'm speaking to are other stupid, uneducated white Americans like myself.
yeah.
Uneducated, didn't go to college, like did not have any of that exposure. So I'm talking to my other fellow crackers being like, you need to understand this and learn about this because you're going to be as blown away by it as I was, as I am.
Yeah.
And then also just, making fun of it just because how can you not? Like, it's so absurd that it's like, and they deserve to be mocked. They deserve to be mocked. I'm sorry. There should be compensation for all three of us for having to sit through that Michael Rapaport.
100%. 100%. It's like, this is like, it's the worst lane because we have to sit through this bullshit. Like, I didn't want, for years, I was like, oh, I hope someone makes this Hasbara podcast because I would listen to it.
Yeah.
I was telling people to do it. I was like, someone do it. And no one was.
Did yourself.
And then I finally was like too close to a nervous breakdown not to talk about it. And so I just started it myself. But now I'm stuck watching Lee Kern's wretched ass, just saying this racist fucking drivel. And you just have to sit there and
that's the other thing that like really just like strikes me about this whole thing is that like it's a level of censorship that I have never seen before with any other issue.
100%. Yes.
It's a level of vitriol that I have never seen before. So-called liberals like Malcolm Nance going on and saying
God, the worst.
Openly Islamophobic things about Rashida Tlaib, openly racist Islamophobic
also
things
lied about Jill Stein, said she worked for like RT.
Yeah,
never took that, retracted that.
Yeah, just like crazy Islamophobic, anti-Arab, racist shit that no one seems to be like noticing or saying anything about in like mainstream discourse.
Completely.
And next level hate. Like I've gotten hate before, like on things, like when I talked about things, never to this level. Never to the level that I did once I started talking about this, which between that and the censorship made me want to seek it out more because I was like, what are you bitches trying to hide?